At 9:47 a.m. on September 18, 1944, Private First Class Arthur Jackson observed from 400 yards a fortified Japanese position on Peleliu Island, watching his platoon's left flank halt under a barrage of machine gun fire. The 19-year-old Jackson carried an M1 carbine, a semi-automatic weapon weighing 5.2 pounds and measuring 35.6 inches in length. This .30 carbine firearm had a 15-round detachable magazine, a rate of fire of 40 rounds per minute, and an effective range of 300 yards. The Japanese forces occupied 12 reinforced concrete pillboxes, each housing 6 to 12 soldiers. These fortifications featured steel-reinforced walls and 5 feet of coral rock on top, creating a network of interlocking fields of fire. For 3 hours, the Marines had been attempting to advance, but casualties were mounting, and the regiment was stalled. The island, expected to be secured in 4 days, was still not under their control on this 4th day. Jackson's company commander surveyed the pillboxes, then turned his gaze to Jackson. No explicit orders were given, but Jackson understood. He moved forward alone, determined to neutralize all 12 pillboxes, eliminate 50 Japanese soldiers, and complete his mission within 90 minutes. This action would allow the regiment to advance. If you are interested in how one teenager managed to save an entire regiment, hit the like button and subscribe for more impossible stories. Now, back to Jackson's narrative. Arthur Jr. Jackson was born on October 18, 1924, in Cleveland, Ohio. His family later relocated to Canton, Ohio during his youth. His father worked as a watchmaker, and with the ongoing depression, the family faced significant financial hardship. As a boy, Jackson undertook various odd jobs, such as cutting grass and washing windows, to help support his family. In 1939, at the age of 15, his family moved again to Portland, Oregon, where Jackson attended Grant High School. He was an academically average and unremarkable student, graduating in 1942 at 17 years old. Following his graduation, Jackson found employment with a naval construction company in Alaska, performing demanding manual labor for good pay. He returned to Portland in late 1942. On January 12, 1943, at 18, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. As the war intensified, the Marines needed more personnel, and Jackson sought a sense of purpose. The Marine Corps offered both. In January 1943, Jackson reported to the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, California. His 13-week boot camp regimen included physical conditioning, marksmanship, combat training, and rigorous discipline. Jackson, though not exceptional, qualified as a marksman with a rifle, which was considered merely adequate rather than expert or sharpshooter. Completing boot camp in April 1943, he was promoted to Private First Class and assigned to the 1st Marine Division. The 1st Marine Division, based in Melbourne, Australia, was a seasoned unit with combat experience from Guadalcanal and Cape Gloucester. Jackson joined Company Y, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, as a replacement, or what the veterans called new meat. The experienced Marines observed him, quiet, slight, standing 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighing 145 pounds, and didn't consider him special. They had seen his type before. Most didn't last long. Throughout 1943 and early 1944, Jackson trained with his unit, focusing on squad tactics, weapons familiarization, and jungle operations. He was issued an M1 carbine, a weapon that would ultimately play a crucial role in saving his life. Designed in 1941, the M1 carbine was lightweight, semi-automatic, and originally intended for support personnel such as officers, radio operators, and vehicle crews, rather than frontline infantry. Nevertheless, its popularity grew due to its light weight, ease of handling, and rapid firing capability. The M1 carbine's specifications included an unloaded weight of 5.2 pounds, a length of 35.6 inches, and an 18-inch barrel. It fired .30 carbine cartridges with a bullet weight of 110 grains and a muzzle velocity of 1990 feet per second. Its detachable box magazine held 15 rounds, taking approximately 3 seconds to reload. The weapon had an effective range of 300 yards and a maximum range of 450 yards, utilizing a gas-operated rotating bolt action. Its sustained rate of fire was 40 rounds per minute. The M1 carbine was known for its reliability and simplicity, making it a favored weapon among Marines. During the Cape Gloucester campaign in late 1943, Jackson earned a commendation letter for rescuing a wounded Marine under fire, dragging him to safety, and administering first aid, which saved his life. His officers noted his composure, discipline, and courage. But Jackson remained modest and reserved, never speaking of his actions and simply focusing on his duties. By August 1944, the 1st Marine Division geared up for its next operation. The target remained classified, and the men were unaware of their destination, though they knew it would be difficult, as it always was. On August 26, 1944, they learned their objective: Peleliu Island in the Palau Group, 500 miles east of the Philippines. The briefing stated a 4-day timeline to secure the island. However, the veterans were skeptical, having heard optimistic predictions before. Guadalcanal was supposed to be swift and Cape Gloucester easy. Nothing, they knew, was ever quick or easy. Peleliu Island, approximately 6 miles long and 2 miles wide, is situated in the Palau archipelago in the western Pacific. Its terrain consisted of sharp coral ridges, deep valleys, and limestone caves. The island held strategic importance due to an airfield at its southern end. If captured, American aircraft could support operations in the Philippines. This was the plan. The Japanese garrison, numbering around 10,900 soldiers from the 14th Infantry Division, comprised veteran troops led by Colonel Kunio Nakagawa. Nakagawa, an experienced and professional officer, had studied American tactics. He understood that the Americans relied on naval bombardment and expected quick victories, and he was determined to deny them both. Nakagawa implemented new defensive strategies, abandoning the failed banzai charges and beach defenses that had proven disastrous at Tarawa, Saipan, and Guam. He built deep fortifications inland, preparing for a long war of attrition. The Japanese constructed over 500 caves, both natural and man-made, blasting pillboxes into coral ridges with steel-reinforced concrete and 5 to 6 feet of coral rock cover, forming interlocking fields of fire and multiple defensive layers. These caves were connected by tunnels, storing supplies, hospitals, ammunition, and command posts underground. The defenses were invisible from the air, a critical failure of American intelligence. Reconnaissance photos showed only light jungle cover and low hills, making aerial bombardment appear effective, but it was not. The bombardment destroyed surface vegetation, but left the caves untouched. Naval gunfire pounded empty positions, while the Japanese waited underground, safe, patient, and prepared. Major General William Rupertus, commanding the 1st Marine Division, confidently predicted the island would fall in 4 days, a confidence that proved unfounded. Admiral William Halsey had even recommended bypassing Peleliu entirely, deeming the airfield unnecessary for MacArthur's Philippines invasion. Halsey's recommendation was disregarded, and the operation proceeded, a critical error. On September 15, 1944, D-Day commenced at 8:32 hours. The first wave landed on the white and orange beaches in the island's southwest corner. Japanese artillery immediately opened fire, causing 500 Marine casualties within the first hour. Landing craft burned, and bodies floated in the water. Despite this, the Marines pushed inland, securing the airfield by day 3, but it proved useless. Japanese artillery from the northern ridges continuously shelled the area, preventing aircraft from landing. The predictions were wrong. The southern sector remained fiercely contested. The Japanese 2nd Battalion, 15th Infantry, though isolated, continued to fight. Numerous pillboxes dotted the terrain, each requiring individual destruction using flamethrowers, demolition charges, grenades, and close-quarters combat. The extreme heat, reaching 115 degrees Fahrenheit with 80% humidity, caused Marines to collapse from heat exhaustion. Water, stored in empty fuel drums, was often contaminated and tasted of gasoline, but men drank it regardless. By September 18th, Day 4, the 7th Marines were attempting to clear the southern tip. Company Y advanced on the left flank through brutal terrain, coral outcroppings, dense scrub, and hidden Japanese positions. The Japanese were entrenched and waiting. Company Y's advance halted under intense machine gun fire from multiple pillboxes, punctuated by mortars and rifle fire. The Marines sought cover, pinned down, and the attack stalled. At 9:47 a.m., on September 18, 1944, Private First Class Arthur Jackson noted the situation. His platoon was immobilized, the left flank unable to advance due to Japanese fire emanating from a cluster of approximately 12 fortified pillboxes. Each pillbox, made of reinforced concrete and camouflaged, formed an interlocking defensive network where one protected another. This created a kill zone, as advancing on one position exposed troops to fire from others. Jackson's company commander assessed the critical need for the platoon to move forward, understanding that doing so would incur heavy casualties unless the pillboxes were neutralized. The commander looked at Jackson, and Jackson looked at the pillboxes. No spoken orders were necessary. Jackson understood his imperative. He advanced alone, without awaiting support or seeking permission. He carried his M1 carbine, 2 additional 15-round magazines, 4 white phosphorus grenades, and 1 fragmentation grenade, leaving his pack behind to prioritize speed over supplies. The first pillbox, located 200 yards ahead, was a large structure reportedly housing 35 Japanese soldiers. Its elevated position provided excellent fields of fire. Jackson approached from an angle, not directly, utilizing terrain features such as coral outcroppings, dead ground, and small depressions. He moved quickly in short rushes of 5 to 10 yards, pausing to observe before resuming his advance. At 100 yards, Japanese soldiers spotted Jackson and opened fire with Type 99 light machine guns, firing 7.7mm rounds at a rate of 800 rounds per minute. Bullets whizzed past Jackson as he dove behind coral cover, waited for the firing to shift, and then continued his rush. At 50 yards, he was close. The pillbox had a single main firing port, approximately 2 feet wide and 1 foot high, steel reinforced. Jackson positioned himself at an angle where the aperture could not target him. He then prepared a white phosphorus grenade, a WP Mark I, weighing 24 ounces with 15 ounces of white phosphorus filler. The grenade had a 4.5-second fuse delay, burned at 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and had a lethal radius of 35 yards. Jackson pulled the pin, counted 1, 2, and then launched the grenade. It arced perfectly through the firing port and exploded inside. White smoke gushed from the opening, followed by screams as Japanese soldiers, trapped within, reeled from the burning phosphorus adhering to their skin, which water could not quench. Jackson charged, M1 carbine poised. He fired through the smoke, emptying his 15-round magazine in a semi-automatic aimed burst. The screams ceased. In 3 seconds, Jackson reloaded. He then deployed an explosive satchel charge, brought by a fellow Marine who had partially kept pace. The charge detonated, and the pillbox structure cracked, filling the air with concrete dust. The position was neutralized, with 35 enemy casualties. With one pillbox down and 11 remaining, Jackson pressed on, immediately identifying his next objective. A smaller pillbox 150 yards to the northeast, estimated to house 6 to 8 soldiers. Jackson advanced, adhering to his method. Leverage the terrain, move swiftly, and maintain continuous momentum. The Japanese were bewildered. A solitary Marine attacking was inconceivable. The second pillbox opened fire, compelling Jackson to the ground as bullets impacted around him, showering his face with cutting coral fragments. He dismissed these minor injuries, crawling forward for 30 yards until the firing ceased for a magazine change. Jackson then sprinted 20 yards, reaching the side of the pillbox where the enemy gunners could not angle their weapon. He unpinned another white phosphorus grenade, counted, hurled it, and watched it enter the firing slit. After its detonation, smoke and flames erupted, accompanied by screams. Jackson moved to the entrance. Locating the rear exit, he tossed in an Mk2 fragmentation grenade, weighing 21 ounces with 2 ounces of TNT, boasting a 30-foot fragment radius and a 15-foot kill radius. The grenade exploded, silencing the pillbox. With the second position destroyed, Jackson reloaded his carbine, having expended 30 rounds from 2 magazines, leaving him with 1 magazine of 15 rounds. He needed more ammunition. A Marine runner arrived, providing Jackson with 4 additional magazines, 60 rounds, bringing his total to 75 rounds, along with 3 more white phosphorus grenades. Jackson accepted the supplies, and the runner withdrew. Jackson continued his solitary advance. The third pillbox, 200 yards to the west, was a larger structure embedded in a coral ridge, offering an elevated position with excellent visibility. Jackson approached it from below, the ridge obscuring him from the pillbox's view. He climbed, hand over hand, his hands enduring cuts from the coral, yet he did not falter. Upon reaching the summit, he was 20 feet from the pillbox. This time, Jackson abstained from grenades. An explosion so close would invariably harm him. Instead, he fired his carbine, delivering 15 aimed shots through the firing port in rapid succession, 1 per second. The Japanese inside retaliated, bullets exiting the port, but Jackson was positioned to the side, protected by the angle. He reloaded, then fired another 15 rounds. Movement at the rear entrance revealed Japanese soldiers attempting an escape. Jackson shifted his aim, firing 5 rounds, felling 3 soldiers while the others retreated inside. Moving to the entrance, Jackson threw a white phosphorus grenade inside. The resulting detonation engulfed the pillbox in flames. No one emerged. The third position was destroyed. Approximately 30 minutes had passed. 3 pillboxes were eradicated, and an estimated 40 Japanese soldiers were killed, with 9 pillboxes still standing. Jackson's hands bled, his face was cut, and his uniform was caked with coral dust. Dehydrated and enduring brutal heat with an empty canteen, he dismissed all discomfort. The mission was incomplete. The 4th and 5th pillboxes were strategically close, providing mutual support. Attacking one exposed him to fire from the other, a standard Japanese defensive tactic. Jackson observed, identifying weak points. A coral outcropping offered limited cover between the pillboxes, which were 30 yards apart. Jackson could utilize it. He advanced to the outcropping, finding himself vulnerable but strategically positioned. The pillboxes could not fire upon each other, nor could they target Jackson without friendly fire. He had temporarily established a safe zone. Jackson simultaneously hurled 2 white phosphorus grenades, 1 at each pillbox. Both found their marks and detonated, spewing white smoke from both positions. Jackson then charged the 4th pillbox, firing his carbine through the smoke. With a full magazine, The blinded Japanese soldiers inside succumbed to his precise assault. Jackson pivoted to the fifth pillbox, reloading as he advanced through the smoke. The white phosphorus obscured everything, but Jackson, having observed the layout, reached the firing port. He methodically fired 15 rounds inside, then threw an explosive charge, causing the pillbox to partially collapse. With the fifth position destroyed, 5 were down, and 7 remained. Ammunition status: 3 magazines, 45 rounds, 2 white phosphorus grenades, and no explosive charges. Jackson required resupply. Another Marine arrived, bringing grenades, charges, and ammunition. The Marine stared at Jackson, whose uniform was shredded. Blood streaked his face, hands were cut, and eyes burned with intensity. The Marine handed over the supplies and quickly departed. 50 minutes had elapsed, halfway through the assault. 7 pillboxes still stood. Jackson's platoon was now advancing, and the suppressive fire had diminished. Marines moved forward, providing covering fire for Jackson, who continued his relentless assault. The 6th pillbox, an isolated small structure with 4 to 6 soldiers, was approached directly. No deception was necessary. The position was weak. He threw a white phosphorus grenade, waited for its detonation, moved to the entrance, and then threw a fragmentation grenade. The ensuing detonation silenced the position. The 6th pillbox was quickly and efficiently destroyed. Pillboxes 7, 8, and 9 formed a defensive triangle, each supporting the others. The most challenging configuration. Jackson could not approach one without exposing himself to the other 2. He needed a different approach. After 5 minutes of observation, Jackson identified a dead angle, a small depression. Reaching it would expose him to only one pillbox. He sprinted, drawing bursts of Japanese fire from 2 machine guns, rifles, and mortars. Jackson dove into the depression, bullets impacting around him. He was barely safe. From this vantage point, Jackson could see the 7th pillbox 20 yards away. He couldn't throw accurately from his current position and needed to get closer. He crawled slowly, inches at a time, unseen by the Japanese due to the coral's obstruction. He reached a position 15 feet from the pillbox. Close enough. Jackson stood and threw a white phosphorus grenade, which entered the firing port and detonated. He immediately threw a second grenade at the 8th pillbox, 40 yards away. Though the throw was long, the grenade landed short, exploding near the entrance. The white phosphorus spread, burning Japanese soldiers at the entrance, who then retreated inside. Jackson charged the 7th pillbox, carbine blazing. The Japanese inside were already succumbing to the white phosphorus. He finished them with rifle fire. The 7th position was destroyed. Without pausing, he moved immediately to the 8th pillbox. The Japanese were confused and disorganized, their entrance blocked by burning white phosphorus. Jackson approached from the side, threw an explosive charge through the firing port, and the 8th pillbox detonated. The 9th pillbox opened fire, leaving Jackson exposed. Bullets impacted near his feet. He sprinted to a small coral boulder, 3 feet high. Inadequate, but better than nothing. The 9th pillbox concentrated fire on his position, pinning him down. Jackson waited patiently as the Japanese fire slowed, indicative of magazine changes or barrel overheating. Jackson seized the opportunity, launching his last white phosphorus grenade in a high arc. It landed atop the pillbox, rolled down, and fell through the firing port. Perfect. Detonation inside. The 9th pillbox was destroyed. 3 pillboxes remained, numbers 10, 11, and 12. Jackson was exhausted after 75 minutes of constant combat. His ammunition was depleted. 2 magazines, 30 rounds, no grenades, no charges. He needed more supplies, but no one came. The other Marines were advancing but had not yet reached him. The 10th pillbox was 100 yards north. With no grenades or charges, Jackson would have to rely solely on rifle fire. He advanced carefully. The pillbox, built into a hillside, had poor visibility, its firing port facing east. Jackson approached from the west, remaining unseen. He reached the partially open rear entrance and peered inside. 4 Japanese soldiers faced away, watching the eastern approach. Jackson aimed, fired 4 rounds, and all 4 soldiers fell. Jackson entered. The pillbox was clear. He moved to the firing port. Outside, more Japanese soldiers, reinforcements, approached. Jackson fired 15 aimed rounds through the port, bringing them down. The 10th pillbox was secured. 2 pillboxes remained. Jackson had 11 rounds left for 2 pillboxes, each holding 6 to 8 soldiers. The math was unfavorable, but Jackson never stopped. The 11th pillbox was visible from his position, 80 yards southwest. Jackson exited the 10th pillbox and advanced using cover. At 50 yards, the 11th pillbox opened fire. Jackson went prone and returned fire, aiming 1 round at the firing port. The round entered, and someone inside screamed. Jackson fired again. Another scream. He was shooting blindly, but some rounds were hitting. Jackson reloaded his last magazine, 15 rounds. He fired methodically, 1 round every 2 seconds, aimed at the firing port. Some rounds ricocheted, others penetrated. The fire from the pillbox diminished, then ceased. Jackson advanced, reached the entrance, and cautiously looked inside. 6 Japanese soldiers, 5 dead, 1 wounded. The wounded soldier raised his rifle. Jackson fired, and the soldier fell. The 11th pillbox was destroyed. Only 1 pillbox remained, number 12. Jackson had 8 rounds left. He located the target, the last position, 120 yards east, an elevated concrete bunker, the strongest position. Jackson had no grenades, no charges, just 8 rounds of ammunition. That was his entire arsenal. Jackson advanced. At 80 yards, the fortified position erupted in gunfire. Intense fire, from 2 machine guns and multiple rifles. Jackson sought cover, assessing the situation. The position was overwhelmingly strong. He couldn't attack it alone, not with only 8 bullets. He needed assistance. 2 Marines soon arrived, having tracked Jackson's aggressive push. They brought with them ammunition, grenades, and explosives. Jackson gratefully accepted them. His resources now included 45 rounds, 3 white phosphorus grenades, and 2 explosive charges. He was now prepared to complete his mission. The 3 Marines moved forward together, with Jackson at the helm. At 40 yards, they fanned out. Jackson maintained the central approach, while the other Marines flanked to the left and right. The 12th gun emplacement concentrated its fire on Jackson. He was the primary threat, and they now recognized him. The flanking Marines launched grenades, 2 white phosphorus grenades, both hitting near the firing port. A thick white smoke obscured visibility. Jackson surged forward. The Japanese soldiers were unable to see him. He reached the side of the fortified position, placed an explosive charge, and personally detonated it. The resulting explosion was tremendous, cracking the side wall of the stronghold. Jackson then tossed a white phosphorus grenade through the fissure. It detonated inside. The rear entrance opened, and Japanese soldiers attempted to flee. Jackson was waiting. He unleashed a full magazine, 15 rounds in rapid succession. The soldiers fell. No one escaped. Jackson moved to the entrance. The fortification was engulfed in flames. White phosphorus smoke filled its interior. The Japanese inside were dead. The 12th strengthened emplacement was destroyed. The elapsed time was 90 minutes. 12 fortifications had been eliminated, and 50 Japanese soldiers killed, all by 1 Marine Private First Class, Arthur Jackson, aged 19. The platoon's left flank moved forward, and the regiment continued its assault. The objective was achieved. Jackson returned to his lines. His hands were severely cut, his face lacerated. He was dehydrated and exhausted, with minor shrapnel wounds. He declined medical evacuation, choosing to remain with his unit. The Battle of Peleliu raged on. The island, expected to fall in 4 days, eventually took 73. The 1st Marine Division endured 130 fatalities, 5,450 wounded, and 36 missing, a 40% casualty rate, the highest of any amphibious assault in the Pacific War. The strategic benefit was questionable. Admiral Halsey had been correct. The island should have been bypassed, but it wasn't. Jackson continued fighting on Peleliu. He sustained injuries on September 20th, 2 days after his solitary attack, from shrapnel. He was taken to a field hospital for treatment. He recovered and rejoined his unit. In 1945, he fought on Okinawa. He was wounded again on May 18, 1945. Once more, he recovered. Jackson's actions on September 18th were thoroughly documented, with multiple eyewitnesses. His company commander submitted a recommendation for the Medal of Honor, which was approved. On October 5, 1945, at the White House, President Harry S. Truman presented Private First Class Arthur J. Jackson with the Medal of Honor. Jackson was 20 years old. The official commendation stated, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity, at the risk of his life, above and beyond the call of duty, while serving with the 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division, in action against enemy Japanese forces on the island of Peleliu in the Palau Group, September 18, 1944. Boldly taking the initiative when his platoon's left flank advance was held up by the fire of Japanese troops concealed in strongly fortified positions. Private First Class Jackson unhesitatingly proceeded forward of our lines and, courageously defying the heavy barrage, charged a large pillbox housing approximately 35 enemy soldiers." The citation continued. Pouring his automatic fire into the opening of the fixed installation to trap the occupying troops, he hurled white phosphorus grenades and explosive charges brought up by a fellow Marine, demolishing the pillbox and killing all of the enemy. Advancing alone under the continuous fire from other hostile emplacements, he employed similar means to smash 2 smaller positions in the immediate vicinity. Determined to crush the entire pocket of resistance, although harassed on all sides by the shattering blasts of Japanese weapons and covered only by small rifle parties, he stormed one gun position after another, dealing death and destruction to the savagely fighting enemy in his inexorable drive against the remaining defenses, and succeeded in wiping out a total of 12 pillboxes and 50 Japanese soldiers. The commendation concluded, "Stout-hearted and indomitable, despite the terrific odds, Private First Class Jackson resolutely maintained control of the platoon's left flank movement throughout his valiant one-man assault, and by his cool decision and relentless fighting spirit during a critical situation, contributed essentially to the complete annihilation of the enemy in the southern sector of the island." His gallant initiative and heroic conduct in the face of extreme peril reflect the highest credit upon Private First Class Jackson and the United States Naval Service. After receiving the Medal of Honor, Jackson was commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant in August 1945. He served in China during the post-war occupation. He briefly returned to civilian life in 1946, but military service beckoned him back. He enlisted in the United States Army Reserve in 1948. He served during the Korean War, rising to the rank of captain by 1954. In 1959, Jackson transferred back to the Marine Corps. He was stationed at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where his military career concluded. In September 1961, Jackson was involved in an incident. He shot and killed a Cuban worker whom he believed to be a spy. The shooting was deemed self-defense, but Jackson buried the body instead of reporting it. When word eventually got out, Jackson was forced to leave the Marine Corps in 1962. He was denied a court-martial to clear his name. The circumstances were complex, and the specific details remain unclear. Jackson returned to civilian life, but subsequently rejoined the United States Army Reserve, serving until the mid-1980s. His total military service spanned over 40 years. Following his final retirement, Jackson worked for the Veterans Administration in San Francisco. In 1973, he relocated to Boise, Idaho, where he worked as a mail carrier. He lived a quiet existence, seldom discussing Peleliu or his Medal of Honor. In October 2011, Jackson visited the USS Peleliu, the amphibious assault ship named in honor of the battle. He was 86 years old, the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from Peleliu. He met with the ship's crew and presented them with a Medal of Honor flag. He shared stories, subdued and factual, devoid of embellishment or heroic fanfare, just what had occurred. Arthur J. Jackson passed away on June 14, 2017, at the age of 92. He was laid to rest with full military honors, and his Medal of Honor was interred with him. His wife, family, and fellow veterans attended the ceremony, which was simple, dignified, and quiet, much like Jackson himself. The Battle of Peleliu remains a contentious topic. Its strategic value was minimal, as the Philippines' invasion succeeded without the need for Peleliu's airfield. The casualties were extreme: 1,794 Americans killed and 8,010 wounded. Over 10,000 Japanese soldiers were killed, with most fighting to the death. Only 202 prisoners were captured. 19 were Japanese, the rest Korean and Okinawan laborers. The 1st Marine Regiment suffered 1,749 casualties within 5 days, rendering the regiment combat ineffective. It was withdrawn and replaced by Army units. The 7th Marines faced similar devastation. The 5th Marines fought until the end, but the division was decimated and would not regain full combat effectiveness until 1945. The heat was lethal. Over 1,000 Marines were medically evacuated due to heat casualties, not wounds, simply the heat. Contaminated water sickened hundreds more. The coral terrain destroyed boots and uniforms. Resupply efforts were arduous, and medical evacuations dangerous. Every aspect of Peleliu proved more challenging than anticipated. 8 Marines earned the Medal of Honor at Peleliu, the highest concentration of Medal of Honor actions in any Pacific battle. Arthur Jackson was one. Carlton Rue was another, along with Everett Pope, John New, Charles Roan, Richard Krause, Wesley Phelps, and Joseph O'Callaghan. All demonstrated extraordinary courage. 5 died while earning their medals. 3 survived. Jackson was the last of them to pass away. Today, the island is preserved, a living museum. The battlefield remains largely untouched. The pillboxes still stand, the caves endure, and unexploded ordnance litters the jungle. Visitors walk the same ground, witnessing the terrain, understanding the immense difficulty, and grasping the staggering cost. Arthur Jackson never identified himself as a hero. When questioned about Peleliu, he recounted facts, dates, times, distances, numbers. He did not embellish or dramatize. He merely described what happened, what he did, nothing more. In a 2011 interview, Jackson stated, "I was just doing my job. The platoon was pinned down. Someone had to do something. I was there. I had the training. I had the weapons. I did what needed to be done." That was his explanation. Simple, direct, honest. When asked if he was scared, Jackson replied, "Of course I was scared. Anyone who says they weren't scared is lying. But being scared doesn't matter. The mission matters. Your buddies matter. You do what needs to be done, regardless of fear." This encapsulated his philosophy: duty, Mission, comrades. Jackson received recognition beyond the Medal of Honor. 2 Purple Hearts, the Presidential Unit Citation, the Navy Unit Commendation, the American Campaign Medal, the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal with 2 Bronze Stars, the World War II Victory Medal, the National Defense Service Medal with 1 Bronze Star, and the Korean Service Medal, and the Armed Forces Reserve Medal. His medals filled a case, though Jackson rarely displayed them. The numbers narrate the story more eloquently than words. 1 Marine, 19 years old, 90 minutes. 12 fortifications destroyed. 50 enemy soldiers killed. 1 platoon saved. 1 regiment's advance enabled. 1 strategic position captured. The arithmetic is straightforward. The execution was anything but. The assault carried out by Jackson became a subject of meticulous study across military academies, Marine Corps training programs, and infantry schools. His tactical approaches were scrutinized, his decision-making process dissected, and his bravery duly noted. However, mere analysis falls short of encompassing the sheer intensity it demanded. 90 minutes of relentless, solitary combat against entrenched fortifications while under enemy fire, all while wounded and profoundly fatigued, yet pressing on without falter. Such an act defies conventional examination. What set Jackson apart? He wasn't physically larger, nor did he possess superior strength or greater experience. In most regards, he was an ordinary individual, yet something profoundly distinguished him. Where others paused, Jackson forged ahead. When peers sought cover, he surged forward. While others awaited commands, Jackson acted decisively. This was the defining difference: unyielding initiative, unwavering resolve, and an absolute refusal to surrender. The Marines who fought alongside Jackson cherished his memory, not primarily for his Medal of Honor or his legendary heroism, but for his composed demeanor, his profound competence, and his unwavering reliability. They understood that with Jackson present, any task, no matter its nature, would unquestionably be accomplished. This was his well-earned and respected reputation. Peleliu presented harsh lessons, as Japanese defenses had evolved dramatically. The era of banzai charges was over, replaced by deeply fortified positions. A war of attrition had superseded the war of maneuver. The Marines adapted and learned from these brutal experiences. Subsequent battles, like Iwo Jima and Okinawa, benefited significantly from the insights gained at Peleliu. Tactics underwent revisions, and preparatory measures improved. Yet the human cost remained tragically high. Jackson lived to witness substantial transformations within the Marine Corps. Modernization, the introduction of new weaponry, revised tactics, and engagements in new conflicts such as Iraq and Afghanistan. Despite these changes, the fundamental tenets endured: close-quarters combat, adept small unit leadership, and individual initiative. The qualities that proved crucial at Peleliu retained their importance and always would. Upon Jackson's passing in 2017, the Marine Corps released a concise yet poignant statement. Captain Arthur J. Jackson was a Marine's Marine. His actions on Peleliu exemplified the finest traditions of the naval service. His courage, initiative, and fighting spirit represent the standard to which all Marines aspire. He will be remembered with honor and respect. It was a brief, straightforward, and entirely fitting tribute. On September 18, 1944, at 9:47 a.m., a single Marine rose, advanced, and attacked alone. 90 minutes later, 12 enemy pillboxes lay dismantled, 50 enemy soldiers were slain, and 1 regiment was able to advance. The mission had been completed. This is what transpired. This is what Jackson achieved.